and welcome to CwX. It's wonderful to be with you today, and thank you for choosing to spend your morning with us. 2026 is a very big year at CwX Africa, personified by our theme, Innovation in Motion. And I'm sure this is already very evident to those of you who have managed to spend some time at the tech showcase outside. Our innovation engine is firing on all cylinders, and over the last 2 years, we have released more new solutions and features than we have ever done before. And this is all driven by our mission to provide you with the highest quality compliance and delivering workflows that help you get more done faster so that you can focus on what matters most. And so that is to serve the people of South Africa. But 2026 is also shaping up to be a year of enormous global change. Global geopolitical tensions are rising, and the waves of technological change is accelerating, bringing about with it a very interesting crossroad of immense excitement for the opportunities that lie ahead, and on the other hand, a lot of anxiety and fear of what those changes eventually will mean. But be that as it may, 2026 will forever be remembered as the year where the world embraced agentic AI. And I am happy to share with you that at CwX you are in very good hands, as our teams have been hard at work building CwX Verity, our agentic AI assistant. And I cannot wait for our teams to show it to you today. So it's a very big year at CwX Africa, and it's underpinned by three big forces. And I'd like to tell you a little bit more about them before we commence our agenda. So let's begin. Both CwX Africa and Adapt IT are celebrating a 30-year birthday this year. And from our humble beginnings, we couldn't be more proud of just how far we have come. Today, we have expanded to serving close to 4,500 customers and over 25,000 users across the African continent. And the public sector in South Africa play an enormous role in our ongoing success. But all of this didn't happen overnight. This is only all thanks to your ongoing support, trust, and loyalty. And we most certainly do not take any of it for granted. So thank you. But complacency is the enemy of innovation. And so we continue to make significant investments in building out our solutions over time. And I'm confident with what the teams will be showing you today that you will continue to choose CwX as your trusted partner for the next 30 years. Aside also from celebrating a 30th birthday, this year we also reflect on the fact that for more than half of our existence, we have been able to serve the public sector in South Africa. From initially starting off helping a few entities with IFRS reporting, today we have expanded to having purpose-built solutions for every sphere of government. And this includes GRAP, Modified Cash, MSCOA, and IPSIS. And irrespective of the reporting need, we have a reporting solution not only in South Africa, but for the African continent at large. But we are not stopping there. More recently, we have also introduced solutions for audit readiness as well as internal audit. But of critical importance to this audience is the ongoing regulatory changes and reporting requirements. And these can be very tedious to stay on top of. And that is where we come in. For more than 15 years, we have been able to help you successfully navigate all the changes that come about, and this year certainly is no exception. With the meaningful changes introduced by GRAP 104, we have already successfully assisted entities in the PFMA, and we look forward to helping all of you and local government for the critical reporting season that we are finding ourselves in right now. But we have also successfully developed and matured an MSCOA specimen solution over the last 5 years, which is now being adopted in local government at large. So a lot of things happening, a lot of changes being introduced, but we continue to navigate those for you. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk to you about agentic AI this morning. 2026 is really the year where the AI adoption curve and the hype cycle have met. And agentic AI is being woven into the fabric of how work gets done globally. And that really is what is leading to the third big force into the changes of the year that is 2026 at CwX Africa. In May of this year, our global teams have introduced CwX Verity, our agentic AI assistant. Verity provides for a built-in intelligence layer directly into the CwX Cloud ecosystem. It understands the context of your work, the engagement you are busy with, the professional standards that govern your work, the policies of your entity, and any document or piece of data that you provide to it. It then makes use of this context to highlight areas that require your attention, help you resolve errors that you might find, guide your next steps, and answer any questions that you might have. And this all happens directly within the engagement and not needing you to leave it. Verity is built with privacy at its core, so none of your data is used to train any external model. Every response is grounded in professional judgment with clear citations and highlighting errors that require your professional judgment. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Today, you will get to experience Verity firsthand and see what the engagement of tomorrow entails with agentic AI directly built into the workflow. So, to summarize, we continue to make significant investments in the solutions that we built for you. And we evolve what we are doing to streamline even more aspects of the annual financial cycle. And finally, when you adopt CwX Cloud, you can take advantage of CwX Verity. And so now next up, and to tell you more about our product strategy, I'm delighted to introduce you to Christian Stein, our product executive, to tell you more.
Thank you. It really is a privilege to be back and to have all of you here. So, having a great product really is important, but just as important is having a good interaction with clients. So, we've really taken the last year to explore how do we engage and interact with you, our clients, and where we see friction and where we can improve. That has led to quite a few changes within the CwX ecosystem and how we interact with you. So the first change that we've made is our brand new website. So when you go to CwXAfrica.com, you will see a brand new website with a product page that you can navigate through to see all the products that is available to you with various filters. And you can request for demos. There are storylines, which is similar to what you see outside at the tech showcase, and you can click through all the various products. And then if you want more detail, you can request that from the sales team. We've also upgraded our community. So success.CwXAfrica.com, we've upgraded the community. You can now find whatever help articles you need, time to book a support consultant, book an actual consultant to help you with consulting engagements. All of that is available on the community as well. Then we've built in support into the product. So if you click on Get Support within any one of the templates, you would now be able to chat with support directly from within the product, and you can start that engagement already with them so you don't have to wait for someone to call you back or send an email. We've also integrated WhatsApp support. So if you want to, you can have a chat with someone on WhatsApp and they will be able to respond to you, making sure that we can get to you in a platform that you prefer. And then last but not least, today we are introducing the CwX Africa mobile app. So you can scan the QR code and if you do scan the QR code, you have the opportunity to install the CwX Africa mobile app. So what will the mobile app give you? Basically, it gives you direct access to the community where you can navigate through the content articles. It gives you to support, and you also have the ability to see any notifications we have. So any new products that we're releasing, any updates on the products that you have, new versions, all of that will be published for you. So this year's theme, Innovation in Motion, is really inspired by the innovation that the product team has brought into the product over the last year. Introducing some new products, introducing new features in some of the existing templates, and then just improving on the whole experience. At CwX Africa, we do have a cloud-forward vision, but we are also staying grounded in desktop. So in the product sessions, what you will see is quite a lot of the innovation that we have done, and when you go to the tech showcases, you can see a bit more. But when we look at caseware, we normally see individual products. Maybe it's a template that you're using, whether it's GRAP or MSCOA, but the whole ecosystem consists out of just over 60 apps that we maintain and deliver to you as the market. The ecosystem really brings all of the information and all of your data together so that you as an entity can choose which parts of the ecosystem do you want to use, and you can feed that information all the way through the whole ecosystem, whether it's drafting financials or maybe doing an internal audit, and the teams can share the information across the different platforms. So as I said, we are cloud forward, and what does that actually mean? It does mean that as we go forward, that is where we can deliver much more connected experiences to you, our customers. And that's where we can do much more for you in terms of innovation, releases, and apps. So that is really giving us the opportunity to be faster. And as you will see a bit later with Verity, also integrate AI within the experience. But it doesn't mean we have forgotten about the desktop. Our desktop is as important for us, especially in public sector. So we will continue to maintain our desktop templates. And you will see that there's some innovations coming in terms of working papers, because we know you love working papers. You have your templates integrated in working papers, and you've done your customizations for your financials already in working papers, which you don't want to lose. But what we want to provide to you is a roadmap and a path for conversion to the cloud as and when you are ready to actually move to the cloud. And our strategy is not to force you onto cloud, but really give you the opportunity to move when your entity and yourself are ready to move. So if we look a little bit in history around how did professional leverage change over the years? We start back in the 1990s when we started to digitize, and we went from paper files to electronic files. Then we went into the 2000s and we started standardizing those electronic files because we had a lot of them. We said we need to standardize the way that it looks. And then we started going from various templates into workflows. In 2010, around the automation era started, where we started to automating a lot of the work that we have already done. And we went into from rules to managing kind of exceptions. And now we are in the delegate era, where we are moving from automating into actually delegating work to software. And the reason we want to do that is to be able to do more with less. So how are we planning to delegate the future engagement, and what are we doing? So last year we shared a cloud roadmap, and this year I'm happy to share our AI roadmap and our AI timeline in terms of how things happened. So back in 2024, we launched IDA, which a lot of you are using already on cloud, and that was our secure chat where you could ask it any questions and it will respond to you with an answer. In 2025, we then released Extractly, And Extractly really is for audit firms where you have to vouch information, extract all of that information directly into Excel, and you get that information directly without you having to spend hours to retype information. We also launched Validate. Validate is for financial statements where you can validate the information within the financials in terms of spelling errors, cross-cost costing, and making sure the notes all agree with the actual statements. And this year, we are launching Verity. So Verity is our next level in the agentic world. And going forward, we are also going to talk a little bit about Verity agents, which will come up later in the year as well as next year. So let's have a look at Verity.
Same way. Many data points, many documents, and pressure to focus. Every audit starts the same way. Many data points, many documents, and pressure to focus on the right risks from the very beginning. But getting there takes time and experience. With Verity, you get better engagement intelligence built directly into Caseware. Verity understands your engagement, not just your question. From planning, Verity helps you cut through complexity. It connects your client's trial balance, risks, and materiality, bringing key audit information together in one place. Then, Verity instantly highlights where attention is needed, so teams can focus on the areas that matter most. No manual cross-checking, no jumping between disconnected files, just a clearer, faster path from planning to insight. During fieldwork, questions come up fast. Instead of searching standards or interrupting a manager, just ask. Verity brings together your engagement data, professional standards, and firm methodology to guide your next step. Like having an experienced auditor right beside you. Verity doesn't stop at the checklist. It reads your documents, board minutes, leases, and prior year files, then connects what it finds directly to your audit work. So important details are easier to surface, understand, and act on, helping your team move from document review to meaningful audit insight faster. Your data stays within your firm and is never used to train external models. Every response is grounded in your methodology and professional standards, with clear citations and a traceable audit trail. And when professional judgment is required, Verity makes that clear, so your team stays in control every step of the way. Verity is the first layer of Caseware intelligence, reasoning across the full engagement right inside the workflow. Backed by methodology-native agents, governed decisioning, and a composable platform firms can build on. From planning to completion, Verity helps your team focus on what matters most. Guidance when you need it, context you can trust. This is Caseware Verity, your trusted engagement navigator.
Now, allow me to introduce you to Simon Warren, directly from Caseware International, to tell us more.
Hello, and welcome to our Shares Club.
Good morning, everybody. It's a delight to be here. You can probably tell I'm from the UK, and so I have to straight away start with an apology. I did bring the weather with me, and it's also why I'm rolling my sleeves up here. It's not because of work, it's because it's far too hot outside at the moment for me. It's great to be here. I'd also like to say hello to everyone I've met from Caseware Africa. It's been fantastic to meet you. If I haven't met you yet, hopefully I'll meet you later. But you are a great team, incredibly friendly, really dedicated, and you should all be very proud of the work that you're doing here. It's astonishing. It was amazing to hear that you had 60 applications that you guys are supporting. So I'm here really to give you a bit of extra context around Verity. We have a session a bit later on this morning where you're going to see Verity in action, and we're going to drill down into a lot more detail about it. But I'm just going to try and give you a bit of sort of contextual foundation on Verity. If you take away one thing about the platform, it is that this is embedded AI. Okay, this is not general AI, this is embedded AI. They're two different things. One of these tools sits outside of the work you're doing, and it's probably the kind of tool that you're using to to help you in day-to-day work. Okay, if you're using Claude, if you're using ChatGPT, you're using general AI, you're feeding it immediate information on the immediate problem that you have. Embedded AI is very different. It's designed to work within the specific professional context that you work in, and therefore its reasoning and the results that it's giving you are very precise, very focused, and designed to help you and your workflow. And that embedded workflow is also important because the agentic AI will do different things at different points in the workflow. It's designed to do that. The stack that the AI platform is built on, that Verity is built on, is really composed of a few foundational items. Okay, these are concepts that are, again, important to bear in mind when you're trying to assess what Verity is and the value to your organization. So the first thing is governance. Okay, so governance covers really, I guess, two things. One is the data security governance around Verity. So this is a technically audited, independently audited technology stack. Okay, so it is, from a data security point of view, it is a ring-fenced, tight AI tool. The other aspect of governance is that Verity points at the material that is relevant to your job, your industry, your business. It's not looking to the outside world for its information. It is embedded within the governance framework that you work in. Okay, and you can influence that governance framework yourselves. Context is also a significant foundational pillar. So the embedded AI only works in the context of the work that you are doing, on the engagement that you're working on. So it will only draw its inferences from the context of that work. So it's not going to give you rogue results outside of that workflow. Okay, so it's a contextual tool. Workflow is important as well because Verity will change and will deliver different tools to you depending on where you are in your workflow. Agents are there to help you with importing data, but there are other agents that are there to help you assess risk. There are other agents that help you carry out reviews. These are different tools, different agents at different points in the workflow. And we'll try and show you some of those a bit later this morning. And I mentioned agents. So agents are these specific tools with specific skill sets designed to carry out specific tasks. And those tasks are carried out with intelligence. So Verity is based on the Claude model from Anthropic. When you start to use Verity, you'll start to get into an interaction with this tool. It's a really simple tool to use, and it will engage with you in a very professional way, in a very specific way, but you're able to have an iterative conversation with the tool around the work that you're doing. So Christian talked about Ada very briefly. This is really the journey from Ada to Verity. So Ada was really an AI chat tool. You were able to ask Ada very specific things about a specific document, a specific situation, a specific accounting standard. But Ada was not contextually aware in the wider sense. But it was the first step towards bringing AI into an embedded process within audit files, within financial reporting files as well. But you had to drive everything about that, right? Ada was not an agentic tool. It wasn't carrying out functions on your behalf. So when Verity was released, Verity comes out, only came out about sort of 9 months ago. But Verity is an agentic tool. It's an iterative tool. It's a composable tool. It's able to drive workflow and drive actions within that workflow, and you're able to have an iterative conversation with it. And it's also looking at the entire context of the work that you're doing. It's drawing on every aspect of the file that you're working in. So that isn't just the financial information, it's also looking at every document that's in there, or every document that you choose to feed it. So if you want to feed it more context, it will draw on that context. And remember, this is based on the Claude learning model. I'm still learning how to use Claude, and one of the things I've learned about it is if I write very simple documents to give information about the context that I work in, it starts to make far more intelligent decisions, far more intelligent suggestions. So the more you provide it within that engagement, the broader context it has to work with. But taking that further forward, what we're actually delivering now is an agentic platform. So we will provide Verity to you, and it comes with skills that have been built into the system so that it knows the industry that it's working on, it knows its own general context. But we can also then start delivering more agents. We can start providing you with more tools that do more specific things at more specific points in the workflow. And you are also able, or will be able, to add your own agents. You'll be able to add your own contextual information. You'll be able to add your own standards within your own organization. If you're modifying standards, if you're taking your own view of standards, you can influence that as well. And that's the advantage of this platform. You're able to influence that context within which Verity is working. What Verity can't do is make a flicker, a tracker work. Where are we going? There we are. It's back in the room. There we are. Good. Okay. So, as I've said, first of all, engagement-aware guidance. Right, really important. This is an engagement-aware tool, and you are able to influence the documents that Verity is pointing at. It's transparent and reviewable. Any decision that Verity makes on your behalf will be flagged very clearly in the files that you're working on. Right, you'll see the Verity logo alongside everything that it decides on your behalf for you to review, for you to accept or to reject. This is not rampaging through your internal audit files on its own accord. You're able to control and review at every single point. And you're able to also have an audit trail behind every decision that the tool is making on your behalf. The governance, as I said, is built in. So you have that inherent security in there. And it's also designed to work for every individual staff level within your organization. Okay, so Verity is just going to help anybody at any individual level, whether they are a junior in your organization, whether they are a senior member of staff in the organization, whether they are someone who ultimately takes responsibility for the content. Verity is able to help every single individual throughout the workflow. And the agentic AI is embedded, right? So it's embedded directly in the workflow. Really important function, that really important feature. That is the core principle behind the whole system. And if you're still wondering what the difference is between generic AI and Caseware Verity, so first of all, obviously generic AI is outside your engagement. It's trained on the public internet, whereas Verity is a conceptual tool that is entirely grounded in your content, in your methodology, that you can also influence if you want to add your own material. It lives outside of your work. So it's not drawing on any context, whereas Verity, of course, is entirely embedded within your workflow, and it's there when you need it to do a specific task. Plausible, not defendable. So if you're using generic AI, as I said, it's drawing on the outside world, the broader world, not the context that you actually want to work in. And that therefore makes it much harder for you to verify and defend the results that you might want to use from that generic AI tool. You don't have the citations and the referencing that you need to back up the decisions in your work. Whereas Verity is designed to be defendable. You can see exactly where Verity has been and what the decisions are that have been made, and you have entire control over that. So you have to adapt to generic AI. You're always having to almost train it yourself, whereas Verity is very, very different. Okay, Verity is learning from the context that you are providing it. So from an AI perspective, this is just a quote from Forbes Technology. This is back last year. It's becoming very clear that embedded AI rather than general AI is the future for efficient AI deployment. There are all sorts of claims around how much more efficient you can get with embedded versus generic. I've heard things of 5 times, 6 times. the efficiency level. But it is certainly true that embedded AI is the way that you are now seeing almost all AI technology thinking or being developed within these systems. All right, it has to be embedded if it's going to be valuable to a professional. It has to be embedded if it's going to be defendable by a professional. And we'll show you a bit more about the detail. We'll drill more into the detail of Verity a little bit later this morning in one of the breakout sessions. So I hope that's been useful to give you a bit more detailed context about Verity. I think I'm now handing back over to Christian. So thank you very much for the attention. And Christian, over to you.
Thank you, Simon. So just to recap, the difference between chat versus an agent and what you can do. Because we can really see Verity moving from chat to becoming an agent and helping you do much more work. So having an agent is much more powerful than just having a chat. As Simon mentioned, it can actually go and do some work for you. It can complete a disclosure checklist. It can complete certain information. It can vouch for certain information. It can compare trial balance information with general ledger information. And all of those are examples of what you can see a little bit later in the session. And that's where an agent is really different. And in our profession, the distinction between chat versus an agent is very important. Because by just using the chat, it's still you putting that information into the financials and engagement. But where it is an agent and that information comes in and co-work is happening, then we need to have much more professional skepticism in terms of the work that has been performed and how do we incorporate that into the engagement. And if that agent doesn't have all the knowledge and the workflow, then the chances are much more likely that it will come to the wrong conclusion. So as we know, we are really entering an era where intelligence is becoming increasingly accessible. Any one of us can ask a question to one of the AI agents or chatbots, and we will get an answer. AI also really likes to be creative. And in our profession, as finance professionals, we can't really afford creativity when it comes to a note within GRAP 104, maybe a GRAP 104 note or your GRAP financials. We don't want it to be creative. It needs to be factual and it needs to bring in the right information. So if we then look at where we fit in as Caseware, and where does AI fit in and how do we bring the two together? For decades, as we've mentioned before, Caseware have taken the complex standards, brought it all together within the various templates that we sell, together with the different apps, and we've built them to create structured templates and structured workflows. And those templates then represent certain documents and checklists. And that is really institutional knowledge that we've worked on for many and many years. And you guys have come accustomed to it in terms of how does a set of financials look like, how do a note read, how do accounting policy look like, and how does that read? So when we ask an AI and when we bring the agentic into our templates and into our apps, we really see the two working together. You don't want to get a different response every single time you prompt an AI to write the same note for you. You want it to be consistent. You want it to be the same as your firm methodology. You want it to conform to what you as an entity has actually selected. And if that deviates from what you have as the entity selected, then that is going to be where you're going to run into issues. And that's where we as Caseware, with our templates and apps, provide the structure for Verity and for AI agents to then respond in terms of your entity's workflow and methodology. So if we think about what's next for us as finance professionals, and what do we need to work on going forward? As AI becomes more embedded in our lives, we should stop being data capturers and really start thinking about data expertise. So a lot of us still spend a lot of time there, but we can really use the AI to go and capture the data for us and bring the information in automatically. And we can rather spend our time in reading, querying, questioning the data, and really working with it. Then also validating AI responses and governing it. So as case where we build in some governance rules around it, but there's even more that you can do within your profession, within the entity that you're working in, and within the industry that you're working in to build in more guidance and really learning how do you build in that guidance for the AI tool that you're using. And then partnering with various businesses and with your own business, that when you get the AI responses, how do you report back on it? So I think a lot of us have received an AI tool, and suddenly there's this expectation that we will be 10 times faster, and by Friday morning we should be sitting, sipping a tequila somewhere. And we've all asked an AI to do some work for us, and the first response it says, "Oh, very good question. No one has ever asked me this question before. You are the smartest person in this room." And then you give yourself a tap on the back. But then it answers you, and you go like, "This does not sound right. I don't know. Let me do some more research." And then you see, "Oh no, actually it's wrong." Then you tell it, "No, you're wrong." And it says, "Oh yes, you're right. I was wrong, but this is now the right one." And then you wonder, why couldn't it give me the right response? And sometimes some of the things take longer than what we kind of expect. But it's then to identify within the business, where do you partner with who in terms of which problems you are solving, and how do you report back those efficiencies so that the business as a whole can get those efficiencies. And then lastly, ethical judgment. So AIs love to create, they like to always answer you, they love for you to be correct, and they will always give you an answer depending on how you prompt them. And as finance professionals, we really have to think about the responses that we're getting from the AI ethically in terms of the correctness of the response. Is it accurate? Is it compliant? And we can't just accept the response it gets. So our professional skepticism has to be even better than before, because before, if we just trusted a person, we could gauge their intelligence, we could gauge how fast they are. You've worked with them for a while, you trust them to do the right thing, and you could trust the work that they give you. But now with AI, even more, we need to be skeptic about the responses we get. So leaving you with that, what we need to think about is change. As we go into the AI world, and with any change that has happened, change needs 5 things. It needs vision, it needs skills, it needs incentives, resources, and an action plan. So if we think about vision, if there is no vision, and you only have the skills, incentives, resources, and an action plan, what you end up with is confusion. So when you're trying to implement any change, make sure that you set a vision for the company, for yourself, for the team, to make sure that they can follow that vision and know where you want to end up with. If you then think about not having skills, if no one is trained to use the AI, what we get is anxiety. People get anxious, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to do it, and they will get anxious in terms of doing it, and that change will not happen. And then if we think about incentives, if there is no incentive, we're really going to have resistance. Why do I have to do this? If it's taking me longer to actually do something, not getting any benefit from it, then why do I need to do it? And we need to be clear in terms of what the incentives will be in the future so that we don't have the resistance to change. And then without resources, it doesn't help. We say we are embracing AI, but we don't give people access to the resources that they need, and we don't give them access to the AI that they actually need to be able to inform change and be part of the change. And that then ends up giving us frustration within the team because no one has access, they don't know what to do. And lastly is an action plan. So you might think you've communicated the change, everyone brought into the change, and now change will happen. But if there's no clear action plan with deadlines, then we're going to get a false start, and you're going to think people have implemented AI, they're busy with it, but no one has actually done something, and nothing has been implemented. So think about, for your entity and for you as a finance professional, what does it mean for you? How do you move through today's sessions, go to the tech showcases, ask the right questions, help build the vision, help create the action plan, and when you go away tomorrow morning, it's important to ask what action first to implement the change that is required. Now, with that, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Michael to go through the product strategic session.
Thank you, Christian. There is a series currently playing within the South African channels. That series is called the Madlanga Commission. Now, one of my key takeaways has been how you address each other within a professional setup. So I've learned, do not call each other gorgeous or handsome. It will land you in trouble. So, good morning, colleagues. Much safer. So I am responsible for the public sector financial reporting, and this is where it fits in within the ecosystem. So South Africa continues to pursue a broader implementation of GRAP across the public sector. So when we look at recent commentary, it highlights concerns about non-compliance to the full GRAP standards, as well as when you look at professional bodies' insights, they advocate for a wider application and adoption of these standards. Now, one of the most important technical developments within the financial reporting space has been the revision of GRAP 104, which is our financial instruments. So the revised standard aims to improve the accounting as well as the adoption of financial assets as well as liabilities in order to better align the reporting with evolving international policies. And lastly, to strengthen disclosure requirements, particularly as far as financial risks are concerned, as well as measurements. So these updates have been included within CwX products, particularly the GRAP template, as well as the M-score specimen financial statements. Further to that, a few standards came into effect from 1 January 2025. These included your IPSAS 43 leases, IPSAS 44 non-current assets held for sale, your IPSAS 45 property, plant and equipment, as well as IPSAS 46, which is your measurement. For jurisdictions such as ours, we keep a close eye in terms of what's happening within the global financial reporting. And we know that ASB tweaks a bit of IPSAS in order to implement within the GRAP standards. So we are keeping a close eye on what the ASB is doing in this regard so that we have those updates ready for you when they come into effect. Now, when your financial reporting is done, you need to keep a close eye into your internal processes. So standardized financial reporting has given rise to M-score, which is essentially aligning your financial reporting from your recording right through to classification of your financial information so that it is easy for municipalities to compare themselves against their peers. So one of the key areas in this regard has been internal processes that govern M-score reporting. And what we have done in this regard, in order to assist you to better align and also to follow through on the processes, we identified procurement as one of the key areas of improvement. So what we are currently busy with is including M-score specific procurement within our internal audit app. So this will assist you in order to align all those procurement processes according to what regulations require and make your lives easier. Now, you are done with financial statements. You have your internal processes in check. Then AG comes. AG requests for information. You submit the information. AG receives it. And then a week later, an email pops up again requesting for the same information. Interesting. Now, we all know with the AG, you cannot say, I did submit last week. You have to comply with their request. Confusion starts. You have to resend. So in order to assist and clear that confusion, we have Audit Tracker. So this allows you to submit what is required, and it gets received by the intended recipient with an audit trail of who submitted it, when it was submitted, and you have a clear accountability trail that you can follow through. So those confusions and questions will be eliminated. You've prepared your financial statements, your internal processes are in check, you've submitted your audit supporting documents, right? But then comes the key question, the accuracy as well as the validity of your financial statements. How do you ensure that the numbers that you have tie up from the face to the notes, vice versa, your casting is correct? So this is where Caseware Validate comes into play. We can all agree. Accurate and compliant financial statements are a non-negotiable for a finance professional. So Caseware Validate is an AI-powered tool that assists in casting your financial statements and making sure that you have a correct set to be submitted to the Auditor General. So it automates accuracy checks as well as the drafts right through to the final version. So there is more on to Caseware Validate, which will be shared a little bit later. So for CFOs, finance managers, accountants, as well as auditors, where do we go from here? What's the focus? So you should be focusing on applying the updated directive, particularly Directive 5, as far as GRAP reporting framework is concerned, assessing the impact of the revised GRAP 104 financial instrument standards, which you should be busy with now, continuing to improve compliance, disclosure, as well as financial statement quality. Lastly, preparing for the future enhancements in the public sector financial reporting rather than expecting major new mandatory standards from 2026-27 reporting cycle. So as far as the financial reporting roadmap is concerned, what we are currently busy with, which will be released in the coming week, will be an updated version for IPSAS. So this will include your IPSAS 43 leases, IPSAS 44 non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations, PPE, IPSAS 45 and 46 measurement. Then after that, we will be focusing on modified cash, which will be a compliance update in Q4 2026. Then in Q1 2027, we will release an M-score version, that's the budget schedules, as well as the GRAP financial reporting template. Then lastly, for Q2 2027, lastly for this particular session, right? Q2 2027 will have the M-score updated version, the specimen financial statements. Now, most of you are currently busy wrapping up the financial reporting for municipalities or MFMA, if I may say. So during this process, we have made sure that you have the right tools in order to assist you and make your lives easier. But what I need you to take away is that we are with you during this finalization process. With that said, Christian did indicate earlier about our revamped Caseway Success Hub. So within this, I just want to highlight that you can pre-book a support consultant to sit with you while you tweak those tables or add new additional information that you might not be comfortable doing. You can do that in advance, and you do that right within the Success Hub. In addition, if there is a bit of confusion as far as the disclosure requirements on GRAP 104, for instance, you can book a consultant to sit with you in order to finalize that disclosure. Then lastly, if you haven't yet done so, please download the mobile app. It will give you access to all the information that you require right on your palm. So all these products that I've indicated do not sit in a vacuum. They sit within a platform. And today, it is a pleasure to be joined by Mo, who is going to tell us a bit more about the platform itself. So I'm going to hand over now to Mo. Thank you so much.
My name is Mohammed, and I'm going to take you through the roadmaps specifically as it pertains to the platform. So under the platform ecosystem, we predominantly have two products. First being Caseware Cloud. So Caseware Cloud is the layer that enables you to work with Caseware working papers in a hybrid way. It also gives you access to all the cloud engagements and Verity. It's also used to protect your data and make sure that you can easily work with your clients. So Caseware Cloud is a fundamental layer in our platform, and we've obviously got Caseware working papers. So Caseware working papers is the historical desktop software that you'll have been using to draft financial statements, do audits, do reviews, and that predominantly makes up the platform. So from a roadmap point of view, I think the first thing that we're going to be releasing is the new Caseware mobile notifications app. So the notifications app, it really solves a particular pain point for us. I think we do a lot of work on the success community, and a lot of you don't know that we've released either new training or did new how-tos, or we've got fixes for particular bugs. So this really puts all that information right at your fingertips. So that's available immediately, and we're really excited in getting that into your hands. Then, from a cloud point of view, I think we've got the new UI on the cloud. So we are reimagining Caseware Cloud. Particularly with the advent of AI, I think Caseware Cloud has kept the same UI for a few years now, and it has served us well. But it's time for it to evolve, and we want your feedback on how we can make it better. So we're going to be suggesting new ways of doing things in Caseware Cloud. There's going to be a toggle which you can opt in and try out the new UI. So that's coming out as we move towards the end of this year. Another cool thing that we're implementing that's really going to enhance your lives is the DocuSign integration. So if you're using one of the cloud apps like IFRS or SME, you will have the ability to send your document for signature directly from the app. So you could have a letter, you could have your financial statements, you could then specify who needs to sign this, and through DocuSign, you'd be able to send that document for signature without actually leaving the app. Another important efficiency gain we feel is that we will give you the ability to see all the issues that's in a working paper file directly in Caseware Cloud. So this solves a particular pain point where today, if you want to see all the issues that are in a Caseware working paper file, you actually have to make a child copy, open up the engagement, and that takes up a significant amount of time. So in this new solution, for those of you that have working paper security enabled in Caseware Cloud, if you want to see all the outstanding issues within a Caseware file, all you have to do is go to Caseware Cloud, go to their engagement, and look at all the tasks. So there will be a one-for-one representation between the issue in working paper file to the task in Caseware Cloud. So it's a quick way of getting an overview of where you are within that file. Next up, I think we're going to solve a support problem, and obviously a problem for all of you, but it's our number one support call in terms of revocation of Caseware working paper licenses. So we know that you sometimes know in advance that there's 10 members of the firm that are going to be leaving at the end of the year or at the end of the month. Through the license management screen, you will be able to schedule those Caseware licenses to be revoked, and then on that particular day that you specify, it will be revoked, and then it's available for the new users that come in. So that's an efficiency gain that we seek to give you towards the end of this year. Another interesting development since we launched the license management portal last year was the fact that we saw that firms have difficulty providing the new authorization code to all the staff in their firm. So we wanted to make that process a lot easier. And to that end, what we've done is we've given you firm champions a way of pushing a notification to all your users when they open up the Caseware file. So once you process your renewal and you need your firm to move over to the new authorization code, all you have to do is push out that notification, and every user in your firm that opens up Caseware working papers will be alerted that they need to use this new authorization code to register working papers, and it gives them the steps on how to do it. So you can monitor the progress of the rollout of your new authorization code. Another key feature that we're doing this year is our audit tracker app wasn't part of the cloud installer. So the cloud installer is the central location that you have to go and download any desktop related software. Audit tracker wasn't part of it. So we're adding that to the cloud installer in this release. And as we another important improvement, I think, which is really going to help you guys, is with all the changes that are coming out next year, we're really going to advocate probably for you to do a new firm template, create a new one from scratch, because basically the entire income statement is changing. So to enable that process and make it a bit faster, we're giving you the ability to import the info store and your firm settings from your last year's firm template. So we looked at the process of the firm template guide. We wanted to make that faster, and we're giving you that in this release. Another interesting change that you'll find specifically within working papers and the financial statements and Pro or the desktop software itself is that we've rewritten all the HTMLs or all the pop-up screens. When you click a button and you see a screen in Caseware working papers through the financials or through Probe, we've basically given all those HTMLs a new look and feel. I think we've got good feedback when we did this last year on the file new screen, which we changed. We've basically now taken all that technology and given you a new look and feel for all the HTMLs in all the desktop products. And the last and most important change, I think, from a desktop perspective that would really make your lives a lot easier is on the super insert. We found that particularly when you inserted a subheading, you could never get it at the exact spot where you needed it. So what we've done now is we've given you 2 more options, which really transforms that super insert experience. So a lot of exciting changes coming up from a platform perspective. I do want to quickly run through just the other areas in the portfolio. So this is practice management. Within practice management, you've got Caseware Cloud Time, and you've got Sherlock. So Sherlock is basically a data intelligence layer, similar to Power BI, but it gathers all the data from all the files across your Caseware Cloud environment and makes it available to you. We've developed a Sherlock engagement report, which specifically helps you do your annual IRBA declaration. And in terms of a roadmap, we've spoken about the Sherlock engagement report, but we are going to be releasing the Sherlock firm management dashboard. Now, the Sherlock firm management dashboard is really intended to help all the firm champions enforce controls within your firm. So if you move over, or if you create a new firm template, or if you want to make sure that everybody is using the new version of Caseware working papers, you have the ability to pull reports, or you'll be able to see per user, as an example, what version of Caseware they're using, what the version of the template they have installed, the last file that they created, is it on the latest version? You'd also be able to see things like, has the file been locked down within 60 days? If you might have practices or control rules in your firm where the files need to be locked down in 30 days. It helps you enforce those types of rules. So we're really excited to bring you the Sherlock Firm Management Dashboard. That will come out in Q3. And then we're going to continuously be adding more specific dashboards. So once we get these 2 dashboards up and running, we're going to be concentrating on creating more dashboards. We really think this will help run your practices more efficiently. And then the last part that I want to talk about is all the different add-ons that we have as part of the Caseware ecosystem. So first and foremost, we've got Caseware Connector. So Caseware Connector is the solution that lets you take data from within your working paper file or your cloud engagement and link it to a cell in Excel. So this is available, Connector is available on the desktop and available within the cloud engagement. One of the interesting things that we're playing with at the moment is a document intelligence agent. So for anybody that's seen our Cloud Connector app, we're putting a new tab in that app called Verity, and you'd be able to tell Verity to build the reports using Connector. But that's exciting changes coming up. Then we've got Caseware Consolidation, also available on the cloud. And you've got Caseware SmartSync. SmartSync is the ability that once you move to Caseware Cloud, it's the technology that lets multiple people work within the same desktop file at the same time. So if you are going the Caseware Cloud route or have used it, then SmartSync is the natural add-on. And finally, we've got Verity. So from a roadmap perspective, I think it was important for me to tell you that Verity is available today in all our cloud engagements. So think of IFRS or SME or ISRE review, you can use it today. But going forward, as we move to the rest of this year, I think we're experimenting with a couple of things. Currently, we are looking at including Verity in Excel. We know that you'll like to use Excel. It's a phenomenal tool, but Verity now can do things in Excel on your behalf and push that data back into the engagement to where you specify. So that's still at the forefront, but it's something that we do want to bring to market. Then we're looking at making the account assignment process easier through Verity. So we've got, for example, in our MSCOA template, on average, people or clients who use it have about 55,000 trial balance accounts. We've got an auto map process in there. But that type of, for anybody that uses it and know how powerful and time saving that is, that type of functionality we want to bring to all engagements using Verity. And then we're looking at a Verity data import agent, which will help get engagement data easily from all the different providers. I think we've already bring in data from all the major providers, but this will just simplify that process. And whenever we talk about Verity, I just want to address the two key questions that we always get. In future, we do envisage a world where you as users would be able to create your own Verity agents. However, we're not there yet. But that's, I think, a key requirement and something that we'll always strive towards. And the other important thing to note, I think, from a Verity point of view is Verity is currently only available in our cloud engagements. So when you're looking at working papers or the hybrid environment, there we still have IDA, and the technology moves quite rapidly, and we'll do our best to keep it with you, keep you up to date with all the latest technology.
Welcome back, everyone. Just a quick reminder again of our agenda. So we are now going to get through the developments in public sector financial reporting that will be presented by CyCA. And then after that, we are going to break up. If you are interested in the practical guidance on GRAP 104, that will be happening in this room. And in the other room, which is Cinema 2, it will be best practices for strengthening internal audit. So our next speaker is going to be Odwa Benga. Odwa is a chartered accountant, experienced in both public and private sector auditing, technical support, as well as governance. He holds the position of lead public sector advocacy at the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, which is CyCA. In his role, he leads and manages CyCA's public sector advocacy, advocacy strategy, capacity building initiatives that are aimed at both CyCA members and non-CyCA members operating in the public sector, as well as CyCA's public sector professionalization advocacy initiatives. He previously was on an audit senior with the AG, and today he is joining us to cover the public sector financial reporting developments. Over to you, Odwa.
Morning. Thank you so much, Michael, for that introduction and for the invite to come and speak to this audience today. It is really a pleasure from us as CyCA. And this topic really resonates with me quite a lot because as part of the work that I do on advocacy, it is to make sure that when certain standards, accounting standards are being issued, I then coordinate and submit commentary to make sure that those standards do actually make sense and take into account the views and thoughts of our members. So today we're just going to touch on a few areas. That is the ASB Directive 5, the 2025-2026 reporting framework, as well as the 2026-2027 one. And then lastly, we'll touch on some emerging risks relating to some of the issues that we can look forward to going into the future. I have been given 10 minutes, so I'll try and stick to it. Very, very difficult. So if we just start off with the ASB Directive 5, this is really the guiding light in terms of how we prepare financial statements as the public sector financial reporting officials. as well as you as auditors, if you are in this room, how you then audit us as the public sector financial reporting officials. This directive determines the GRAP reporting framework for that specific year. Basically, it lists which standards will then be applicable for that particular reporting period. It will also list some of the standards from the other international standard setters that you can apply as part of your financial statements preparation process, specifically for determining some of the accounting policies for specific transactions. It really is important that we start off here so that we can avoid some of the things that we've been seeing around this sector, where we find that some of the entities and institutions are using financial reporting frameworks that are not actually sanctioned within the South African environment. So, like I said, it does guide us in terms of some of the standards that we can use for determining the accounting policies. Specifically, this would be standards that have been approved by the board, right? But we don't have an effective date having been determined by the minister yet, right? And then when those standards then get an effective date from the minister, we can use them to basically early adopt, but early adopt them in their entirety and not specifically piecemeal, which is basically something that is not allowed. So really, this is where the starting point is for us to be able to prepare the financial statements for our specific entities. Then if we touch on the 2025-2026 financial year, which is the year that we are busy with, PFMA is already done and concluded. Hopefully all of us have done and signed off all of our audit reports. If not, we're still with you. Good luck and keep at it, fighting the good fight. Then your municipalities, you are still busy then with the financial reporting process, which your financial statements are then due at the end of this month. Again, all the best to you, and I hope that you are enjoying the process. GRAP 104, as Michael has already touched on it, is the biggest change that we have seen in the 2025-2026 financial year. Really brought some alignment with the international standard setters, IPSAS 41 specifically. Michael did mention earlier on that when the ASB prepares or issues accounting standards, those will mostly be based on what IPSAS has done, and then they tweak them for the South African environment. Some of the key changes that have been brought there include your classification changes, where we're now basing how we classify the various instruments in terms of our business model, as opposed to previously where we should just look at the type of instrument and then we'd base our classification on that. It also brought in a lot of changes, big changes around how we impair our financial assets. Mostly what will be impacted is really on the data side, especially on the municipalities, where we like now not only looking at the past, what has happened with that specific data, we're also looking at the current and the future, and then we determine an expected credit loss. I'm not going to go into detail because I know Michael is going to touch on all of those nice little nice principles on GRAP 104. And then a lot of changes as well around the disclosures, tightening up your credit risk. You need to disclose a lot of details where you wouldn't have done so in the past. Then the other one that came into effect this year was the GRAP 22, which speaks to foreign currency transactions and advanced considerations. Really here it was about determining the transaction date when the entity has received or paid advanced consideration in a foreign currency. Foreign currency transactions are not that common within our space. So, but obviously then for those that are impacted, this is an interpretation that you'd have to look at. Then if you go into the 2026-2027 financial year, here you'll be glad to know that there are no new standards or amendments that have been introduced for this upcoming financial year. So you sort of have a break. However, that break is very, very short-lived because we do have some amendments or standards that become effective from the 1st of April 2027. So the first one there being amendments to GRAP 1. This one really talks to the going concern. A lot of changes that have been brought there around the disclosures that we need to make around the going concern assumption within the financial statements that we prepare. Then they've brought in some changes, a lot of changes around the heritage assets. As standard, I think there you would really need to spend a lot of time if you are impacted by this standard in terms of understanding what those changes are, because they do bring quite a lot of changes. Then they bring in the improvements to standards of GRAP 2023. So the ASB goes through this process of having a look at its suite of standards, and then they would make a few amendments, tweaks here and there. Maybe they missed a grammar, maybe they missed a word, or there have been some changes that have been done to other standards, and then they would need to basically do some consequential amendments to some of those standards. So they will do these projects or on a continuous basis, and then they will release those improvements to those standards. Then the other ones that they have introduced around the standards on transfers of functions as well as mergers. So you will see those right at the bottom of the list of your financial of your standards of GRAP that will be then also be effective in the coming year. Then there are also a few that they have done work on, but those are not yet effective, right? So amendments to GRAP 109 on accounting by principals and agents. After a post-implementation review that the ASB undertook, then there were some changes that they are proposing to the standard of GRAP on 109, which will then also be they're just waiting for the effective date from the minister. Then the other one is GRAP 111 on social benefits. This one is a completely new standard within our environment. Again, it is taken from the IPSAS standards. So your entities such as for example, your SASAs, your refs might actually be impacted by this standard. So this will also be coming into effect, but we're still not sure of when that effective date will be determined by the minister. And then on some of the emerging risks, emerging issues, the SB is undergoing a review around the measurement of assets. Again, this is linking to what has been done by the IPSAS-B. By the IPSAS-B. Michael did touch on IPSAS 46, which is the measurement standard, which then the ASB is also busy trying to see how it can best be implemented within our environment. So what this really entails is divided into two phases, if I can call it that. The first phase was the update of Chapter 7 of the conceptual framework. This speaks to the measurement of our assets and liabilities. And then the next stage will then be the development of the standard itself. We're still not sure exactly when that will be, but on the update of Chapter 7 of the conceptual framework, the ED did come out, and already then commentary was then invited on those. And some of the changes that you may see is around how do we then measure our assets and liabilities at initial measurement, where they've introduced that you will measure assets at transaction price plus your transaction costs. But for your liabilities would then obviously be the inverse, where you would measure them at the transaction price minus the transaction costs. And then where these transaction prices cannot be determined, then there would then be a deemed cost that you can use to measure your assets and liabilities. Then big changes coming in terms of your assets specifically. There are introducing 3 levels of measurement, right? So you have your measurement models, you will have your measurement bases, and then you'd have your measurement techniques. So your measurement models would basically be broadly what is the model in terms of measuring your assets. Then that would then take into account your historical cost on the one leg, which is what we know, what did we pay for the asset when we bought it. And then you'd have your current value model, which would then look at what does the asset cost today based on how we are using it, based on what it is today. So that would then be the basis, would then be the model that you would follow. And then within those models, then there would be your basis, your historical cost, which we know. Then they're changing your market value, which we currently sits in our framework. That is then moving into the fair value. And then they are also changing the replacement cost, which is now going to be something looking like a current operational value. Again, looking at the asset today, and how we are using it today, what would then be the value that would attach to it? Then value in use is being removed as a measurement basis. And then on the technique side, they haven't really released what those would look like, but that will be part of the development of the standard itself. So big changes that are coming around measurement. And perhaps looking right into the future now, something that I had not included in the presentation is around the changes that will be brought around IPSAS 1 from an IPSAS B perspective, where they are looking at how we present our financial statements, right? Aligning it to IFRS 18. There's currently an exposure draft that is out that the IPSAS B has issued. The ASB has also localized it for our purposes. So if you are interested in seeing how then your presentation will look like in the future, please have a look at those exposure drafts. And chances are we will in the long future, because it's still at infancy stages, to be honest, they're still consulting, it will come into our environment. So it's best to influence these things before they really come into our environment. So Michael, thank you so much.
When I started my career a few years, is it many years or a few years, but one of the two back, I used to be very curious. I was one of those who went to the JSE in order to see what a financial instrument looks like. So particularly, I was interested in a derivative. I went there curiously to see what a derivative is, only to be greeted by a piece of paper which had a lot of fine print. Very disappointed. Now, to start off, as an overview of GRAP 104, what is a financial instrument? In order to answer that, we are going to make use of our technology, and that's Caseware AI. In this instance, we are going to use IDA, which is inbuilt within Caseware itself. Let's have a look at what a financial instrument is. So we open up our Caseware platform, we go to IDA, which is our AI, we type in the question and we wait for the response. Once we type it in, we send it, it processes, and we get the response back. And this is within the platform itself, intelligent. You don't have to go through ChatGPT or your Google AI or any of those. You have AI within the platform itself. So that's one of the use cases that you can use, or you can also bounce any ideas that you have regarding your reporting as well as your disclosure requirements. So in terms of timeframes, particularly around GRAP itself. So in April 2025, the standard became effective. That was for public entities. And then in January 2026, The GRAP 104 revised became effective for TVET colleges as well as CET colleges. Then the PFMA year end was the 31st of March, and we released the updated caseware GRAP template 2025-1002 in April, on the 22nd of April. And then the apps were finalized at the end of May. Right, so that was GRAP. Then M-score. So for MFMA, GRAP 104 became effective in July 2025, and we released our first version of M-score 2025-1301, which was essentially the budget schedules. That was in March 26. Then on the 30th of June, that was the MFMA end, which is what the apps finalization is happening now. Then we released an updated version of M-score that included GRAP 104 in it. That's version 2025-1302. That was done on the 15th of July. And the apps finalization has to be done by the end of July. And most of the municipalities are finalizing their financials. Right. Now, let's get into the standard itself, GRAP 104. So what is involved, or what has been involved in the implementation of the revised standard? So your recognition, classification, measurement, both initial and subsequent. And if you look at this, this goes for any standard. It follows recognition, classification, and measurement. But in my head, I've always included identification, which is essentially the first step. And when it comes to systems, the systems and processes impact, particularly when it comes to ECL models, which is your expected credit loss models. So this involved new data gathering processes in order to unpack what your data's book looks like for you to anticipate if there will be any defaults in the future. You also have your updated accounting policies in order to cater for the revised standard requirements. And lastly, system changes for ECL calculations. Which models will you be using for your expected credit loss calculations? So the big shift as far as GRAP 104 revised is concerned is that the way in which expected credit losses are being calculated, or credit losses, bad debts in the past, what you used to call them. So this is the most critical change in how we calculate and recognize impairment. So you'll recall that previously, under the incurred loss, you only recognized a loss when there was objective evidence that a debtor might actually miss a payment. But now, under the revised 104 standard, you must recognize a loss allowance immediately upon acquiring a financial asset and based on future expectations. So the impact is that this will likely result in higher and earlier impairment provisions, especially for municipalities with large debtors book. The standard requires you to have a forward-looking approach. So this is why I normally joke and say it has turned finance professionals into sangomas. So you now need to anticipate what your debtors will do in the future so that you can recognize the losses now. So the ECL must reflect current conditions and reasonable, supportable forecast of future conditions. You might be wondering what these include or involve. So these include your macroeconomic variables, which is the impact on GDP, growth rates, unemployment levels, as well as inflation, and what your borrower repayment abilities will be. So in this context, you will have, you might think of this around the oil situation that we currently have with the Middle East, the whole Iran Israel, America issue, bombing, closing of the Strait of Hormuz, how does it impact your data? Particularly when you look at entities that make use either of crude oil itself or byproducts of crude oil. You have your ESCOMs, you have your fertilizer importers. If you have them within your municipalities, they will be impacted, which might impact their likelihood of paying you in the future. You also have within this context your interest rates, the changes in the central bank, your South African Reserve Bank rates that will be affecting borrowing costs. You have sector-specific indicators like oil prices, for instance, as indicated, and also multiple scenario weighting. So this will be considering your best case scenario, your worst case scenario, and your base case scenario. Right. The core idea is simple. Credit losses should be recognized based on expected defaults, right? And not only after the default itself has occurred. So an ECL is a probability weighted average of possible credit losses where each outcome is weighted by the likelihood of a default. Now, when we look at the disclosure enhancements, so classification is no longer about the form of the instrument. It is now driven by two tests. So the first test is the management model, and the second test is cash flow characteristics. So under the management model, the question that you need to ask here is, how does the entity manage its financial assets? Is it to collect cash flows or to sell them, or both? Then on the cash flow characteristics, the question is, do the contractual terms give rise to solely payments of principal and interest? So those are the two tests that drive the classification. Additionally, what we've noted is the new measurement categories that have been introduced by the revised standard. So these include your amortized cost, fair value through surplus or deficit, as well as fair value through net assets. Additionally, several items that were previously covered by GRAP 19 have now moved into GRAP 104. These include your financial guarantee contracts as well as loan commitments. Now, with every new standard comes transitional rules. So for GRAP 104 revised, what you should do is to include or to implement it retrospectively. What that means is that you generally apply the changes as if the new standard always existed. There is no restatement requirement for your comparative, right? And lastly, your disclosure in the current year of adoption, which is the current year, you must provide a detailed reconciliation table that shows how your old asset categories mapped to the ones or to the new ones that you are adopting. But where does Caseway come into this revised standard? So for the current financial year, you need to update your accounting policies to reflect the ECL model. You re-evaluate your data's book using forward-looking data. That's one. Secondly, you need to review your financial guarantees that were previously off balance sheet. And lastly, prepare for a more extensive disclosure requirement within the notes. So how have we included these changes within Caseway itself? So the starting point is to confirm that you are on the correct version of the software. For GRAP, it should be GRAP 2025-1002, and for M-Score, it should be version 2025-1302. So after that, you launch your financial statements. Then you start off with the accounting policies. So accounting policies state the significant judgments and sources of estimation of uncertainty regarding the impairment of your statutory receivables, the classification and designation of your financial assets, as well as financial liabilities. And further to that, what are your accounting policies around impairment, which is your expected credit losses? And lastly, financial instruments in itself, which are included in many other subcategories, which we will be looking at. So within Caseware, what we have done is to include the accounting policies and following a structured approach which follows the standard itself. So we followed a logical structure in order to present the accounting policies. So expanding the respective section shows the note content from initial recognition, classification, measurement, derecognition, as well as presentation. So you need also, as a requirement, to specify the criteria that your entity, be it your municipality or department, has followed for your financial assets, financial liabilities, as well as embedded derivatives as relevant to your entity. So guidance in this regard has been provided within Caseware. So the next part that you need to do, particularly recalling that we are in the first adoption, what then affects the change in the accounting policy. And that change requires a note to be included. So within the change of accounting policy note, what we have done for the changes, we followed the requirements of the revised standard that covers the nature of the change, your transitional provisions, classification and measurement, which are your transitional elections, the impairment, which is your expected credit losses, disclosure obligations on the initial adoption, as well as the impact on the financial statements, both your statement of financial position as well as your statement of financial performance. So as you can see in the software itself, we followed that structured approach in order to include the reconciliations that are required per the standard. So the change in the accounting policy note requires the disclosure of the reconciliation of measurement categories and carrying amounts at the date of initial adoption. So that has been included, easy to follow and well structured in accordance with the requirements of the revised standard. And further to that, the requirement of the standard is to include the reconciliation of the impairment allowance at the date of initial adoption. That has also been included within the template itself. Now, the other requirement of the revised standard is to include your financial instruments reconciliation. So for most balances that are included within the statement of financial position, they will include components of financial instruments as well as non-financial instruments. That requirement or that balance requires a reconciliation in order to strip out the components of financial instruments. So taking your receivables from non-exchange, for instance, so that single amount, which is not 13 in my case, will need to be reconciled. So looking at note 13, it needs to be reconciled and strip out components of financial instruments as well as non-financial instruments. That has been included, that split has been included and a reconciliation provided. And what we have done within Caseware is to make sure that the two numbers reconcile. And in the instance that it does not, we have prompted an undefined difference that will prompt you to reconcile the amount to the T. So further to that, the standard requires the split of the carrying amounts into financial instrument categories, right? So that will be your categories at amortized cost, fair value through surplus or deficit, both mandatory as well as designated. Now, all the financial instrument amounts that are included in the various balances need to be consolidated. And these need to be consolidated into a single note, what I refer to as the financial instruments note. So the financial instrument note includes significance of the financial instruments for financial position as well as the financial performance. This also includes the nature and extent of the risks that arise from the financial instrument. So these have been included in a logical manner, also following the requirements of the standard. So all the carrying amounts for the financial assets as well as the financial liabilities should be categorized into financial instrument classes. Remember your amortized cost, fair value through surplus and deficit, both mandatory as well as designated. And further to that, the nature and extent of the risks arising from financial instruments should be included or disclosed, both qualitative as well as quantitative. And qualitative is stating the credit, liquidity, as well as the market risks that your respective entity will be exposed to. Again, remember, if you're not sure on how to disclose this, we have included both the guidance, right, as well as you have AI within Caseware itself in order to bounce your ideas through. But do not be caught up within the cycle of boilerplating. What does that mean? So boilerplating is taking non-relevant items and including them within your financial statement. You should be specific. You only include in your financial statements aspects that are relevant to your situation. Do not tata zonke and just include. Be specific. So quantitative disclosure provides the reconciliation of the carrying amount, right? So that's providing the reconciliation of the loss allowance into your 12-month ECL, your lifetime ECL, as well as the simplified approach. So we've given you guidance for that reconciliation. And the same goes also for the gross carrying amount. Sorry, for the gross carrying amount, which is the reconciliation that is required as per the standard. Now, let's circle back to where we started. So remember, with every standard, it starts off with recognition. You then classify, and then you measure. And measurement is both for initial, which is currently where we are in this reporting cycle, and then there will be subsequent measurements that will be happening going forward. So for the current financial year, you must remember to update your accounting policies that should reflect your ECL models. Review your financial guarantees that were previously off balance sheet so that they are brought in to your financial statements. And prepare for a more extensive disclosure requirement within the notes. And do not despair, should you be in need, we are here ready to assist. Make use of booking a support consultant in order to assist as you finalize your financial statements. Thank you so much for joining in.
Morning! Today we are talking about the best practices to strengthen internal audit. I'm Sonia Bicart. I haven't met all of you yet. I'm a certified internal auditor and the new product owner for internal audit and analytics. So if we look at our product ecosystem, just a reminder where internal audit fits in. So it sits in the assurance products, but then it is a Caseware Cloud product only, no desktop. So before we delve into the best practices and how we strengthen the function, we first need to understand, let me just get this thing right. We first need to understand why the functions need to evolve and why they need to stay relevant. Right? So more and more there's a need for internal audit functions to modernize their function, to add strategic value, and then to move to more proactive assessments, meaning, you want to be relevant at point in time. You don't want a year later to tell them something went wrong a year ago. That's not being relevant. But there's some traditional pain points that prevent them from doing that. So they don't have a tool or a system in place, or they have very manual processes in place. And that all those traditional methods prevents them from maybe working effectively, or maybe collaborating effectively within their team or with their client. And even things like maybe not performing data analytics. So we're not picking things up in real time because we don't have tools and systems in place. And ways to address this is to centralize the governance within their function, to have end-to-end workflows, collaboration tools, and then always the automated conformance, which is a big thing for our functions as well. So there's a few things that they need to have in place, right? The first thing being governance. The governance is your tone at the top, the way you set up your function, and that creates consistency as well. So a few ways to do that is to have a connected framework, connect your charter, your audit plan, your risk assessment, and all of those things up until your engagement and then your audit findings. Then another way to do it is to standardize your risk scoring. So meaning you set it up centrally, you apply the same methodology across your function and in your engagements. And then you want formal oversight, right? You don't want things to just be floating around. So you want that built in as well, especially for audit committee approvals and board endorsements, etc. Then secondly, you want to conform to the II standards, right? And you want to make it as easy as possible. And you want to make sure the work that you do is in line with that. A big pain point for a lot of functions. Then you also want to enhance your engagement quality. And you want to create accountability. So ways to do that is having structured templates, having progress tracking in place, review and prepare a sign-off that creates accountability in itself as well. And all of this will create quality on your file. And then it gives you an audit trail, obviously, of where you are in the audit and your progress, etc. Another way to create quality in terms of your engagement files is to have traceable evidence, right? You want it stored centrally. You don't want something to be lost in someone's email somewhere, saved on a desktop, all of those things. So you want a place where you can get all of it together, and it actually allows your team to collaborate then as well. Then you also want to improve your audit accuracy. It's another way to strengthen your function. A few ways of doing that is integrating your RACM into your engagement file. So typically in the functions, they have a RACM in one place, they have their procedures in another place, and then the working paper in a different place. And typically what we find at the end is when we review the working papers as a manager, you find out, oh, but they didn't test everything. They didn't cover all of the risks. Now we're at the end of the audit busy reporting, and suddenly we have to do more work. So by integrating all of this, you ensure that you cover all of your risks, all of your procedures in one go. And it's in one place again. Then data analytics, very, very topical, very, very key. I guess it's one of the best ways to add value and that strategic impact and to be relevant as well. So do more data analysis. It also gives you more accurate results because you don't just do a sample, you test the full population. And then lastly, you want to create efficiencies in your function. You do that by collaborating, right? So if obviously you have all of your things built in already into an application or a tool that creates collaboration in itself. But you also want collaboration amongst your team members. Maybe 2 or 3 different team members have to work on the same working paper at one time, okay? And you don't want to create versions and conflicts and now have to merge at the end again. That doesn't drive efficiencies. And if you do choose a application, you want something that's scalable and affordable, that your team can use. Right. Oh, and very quick and easy to implement. That's the other important thing. So we'll look at the Caseware internal audit solution and how that helps you to strengthen your function. So the internal audit solution consists of 2 applications. It's the first one is internal audit governance, which is the structure and that little umbrella that we spoke about that will drive your consistency, and that addresses the first 4 principles of the IA standards. And then we have engagements, which is where you perform your actual engagement, the execution, your engagement file, and that addresses the 5th domain of the new standards. So let's look at a quick demo on how our product helps you strengthen your function based on the things we've just spoken about. So starting with governance, starting with governance, in the setup you can define your different risks. So we said consistent risk scoring is one of the ways to strengthen. So things that you can do there, you can classify your risk categories, your likelihood, your impact, your inherent risk, and your control efficiencies, and your residual risk. Right? By defining this and setting this up centrally, you creating that consistency in one methodology that's used across your function and your engagements. So let's start with the risk categories, where you define the different risks you want to track. So I'm going to add one called an environmental risk. And once we've added it, you'll see the little orange border. That means a change has been made, but it hasn't taken effect yet. So that also in itself gives you the ability to review things and not just let people edit and change things in your methodology. So it creates that accountability and traceability as well. Our application is preloaded with the other 5 categories. They are based on the standards and best practice. You can alter them, you can change them, you can remove them, you can tailor it to your organizational needs. Then we have the likelihood. So with this, you can also adjust the number of scales and scoring levels you want to apply. So you can change it to a 3 as an example, then you'll only have 3 levels, or you can change it to a 7, and you have 7 levels, 7 being the max. Right, and each of these scoring levels can be edited. For example, in this case, I'm going to edit the short description. I'm going to just change it from a VR, very rare, to XR. Once I'm happy with my changes, I'll click Save, and you'll see the orange border again on the field that I made a change. So the same applies for your inherent risk, your residual risk, and all of the other categories that was available in there. Or settings rather, where you can customize it to your organizational needs and their terminology and methodologies. Okay, so with the setup in place, like I said, it allows you to have a consistent and standardized risk scoring in place in your function. Then we have our methodologies. So you can obviously draft and customize the methodologies and then establish them. So we give you a full library of methodologies already that you can edit. So you don't have to start from a blank page. And let's do an example of editing one. So I'll edit this first one. When I click on edit, I can review all of the content that's already there. I can modify any field that I want to. I can add any new requirements, I can assign roles, I can attach templates, and I can also edit some of those templates or those forms. So each methodology can have a form linked as well. So this is the annual declaration, for example. I can choose to edit this as well, change the questions, whatever I want to do. And when I'm done, I can just click Save. And by doing that, I'm saying I'm happy with this change. and then I establish the methodology. Establishing it means I am now using this methodology in my internal audit function. Okay, it's one that I'm using. And that will go into the manual. Right, the charter is another way that we support the function. So we give it again with a predefined template. Same with the strategy, and you can edit that as needed, customize it, and if you already have a chart and strategy in place, you can just also upload and import. Audit Universe is also there, also again predefined typical processes that we will audit. You can choose to switch between the organizational view or the table view. Risk assessments. So you've set up your scoring methods already in the setup, but now we need to assess our risks to know what's relevant and what we want to audit. So obviously this is where we identify all the risks in your organization. So we're going to do an example where I'm going to add a risk for unauthorized access to the payroll system. Complete the description, the criteria, the effect, and then when you're done with that, you can rate the likelihood and the impact. So we'll rate the likelihood and then the impact as, I can't read there, major, and then you will see the inherent risk is calculated. The same will happen when we rate the control efficiency as adequate. My residual risk will be calculated. Those calculated fields is based on what you've set up in your risk setup. Right. When you're done with your risk assessment and you're happy, you're going to do your audit plan. As internal audit, we do risk-based audits. So you can then set up your audit plan from there. So you will go to audit in the audit module, audit plan, and you'll click on the little add sign. You can add a new plan. Maybe you're planning for the next financial year. You give it a name, assign the financial year, click on save, and then my shelf for my plan is created. Then I need to now add my engagements. So I click on the little add again. I add my engagement. I give the put in the objective and the scope. I can assign team members, all of that. I can assign the risks to it, auditable units, etc. And then when I save it, it's added to my plan. And now when I'm done with my plan, at the end of that cycle, I can then change the status to proposed for maybe the CAE to review. And then from there, you can even approve it once the audit committee has endorsed it. Okay, engagements. What do we do in engagements? We said this is where we execute our work. This is our engagement file. So I'm going to go and create an engagement file for the payroll audit. And I'm going to assign my preparers and reviewers already. And this is done from the cloud. I create my file and the structured document manager opens up. So the first step here is to accept the disclaimer. Once I do this, everything else in this file becomes available. Right? When I go back to documents, you will now see my conducting and concluding steps is also available. So we've added these steps in a methodical approach, meaning, you start from planning, then execute, then reporting, because the last thing you want is you want to get to reporting, but we haven't even signed off planning. That wouldn't make sense. Right. We also have a progress tracker. So visually you can see what is outstanding on your file, who hasn't reviewed it, who hasn't prepared it. And each one will give that indicator to you. So now if on this first procedure or document, I sign off as the reviewer, you will see that for pre-engagement, it's a full green circle, meaning all steps have been completed. So immediately it updated. So it's a real-time tracker. I can at any point in time know where my engagement is and what the progress is. Information requests, there's also a feature available for that, where within our file we request that information. So we said that traceable evidence is one of the things that's key to strengthen our function. We want it in one central place. We don't want to lose it in someone's email or someone's desktop. Okay, so in the engagement file, I can then request for information. We have given a few templates, but you can also add your own. I'm going to do a payroll register in this instance, and I'll click on send. By clicking send, I assign a due date. When do I want this document, and from who? That's typically your process owner that you get the document from. When I send it, they will get an email with a secure link where they can then upload that file. And once they've uploaded it, I have this view, and I can see there's the document that they loaded. I can view it. If I don't like what they sent me or they gave me the wrong stuff, I can reject it. And if I'm comfortable and they gave me the right information, I can accept it. By accepting it, this file is added into my engagement file of this document that they've sent me, and I can now use it on my audit, link it to a working paper, link it to a procedure, whatever I need to do. And my whole team has access to it. The risk and control matrix, or RACM, is where we set up our objectives for this audit. What is the risks that is relevant to this audit, typically a business process that we look at, and then the controls, right? So if, for example, we add a risk, I'll add a one there for, I can't remember, delayed payroll processing, right? I've added the risk, immediately it's added to my RACM, but I still need to assess the likelihood and impact. So I edit the risk, I assess my likelihood, impact, and again, inherent risk is automatically calculated. This calculation is the same that's used in governance, right? And I assigned a control there as well. So now you will see a full picture of the risks, okay? So I do it once in governance, it applied on my risk assessment, and the same methodology applies in my RACM. Creates consistency. Then if we look at the matrix view, which is your complete picture of your control environment. There I have a control there that haven't been rated yet in terms of its effectiveness and residual risk. So I'll edit it. I will rate the effectiveness as adequate, and the residual risk is calculated. Right, and I click save. Now I have a nice picture of each and every control and its related risk to the specific business process, payroll in this example, and I can visually see where the gaps remain, where the weaknesses remain. And this is a very nice view to use in your executive summary in your internal audit reports. Very trendy at the moment as well, where committees and exco more and more want to see a complete picture of their control environment. A new feature that we have now is integration with IDEA. So one of the things we said to create efficiencies was what? Data analytics. Okay. So you won't do your data analytics here. You will still do it in IDEA, a separate application, a Caseware application. When you've done it, you can actually now link your results directly onto your file. So we can quickly look at that. So now I'm in IDEA. This is what IDEA looks like. I've already done an analysis on some payroll data. So I connect to the cloud in IDEA. You will see it opens up Caseware Cloud. I go to Files, and now I will drag and drop my results. So on the left hand side is where my results are, and I drag my specific output to my file. Right? I can then choose to share access, and now it will upload. So the access is, if it's like a payroll data, for example, I don't want everyone in the team to see, I can assign only specific people to see it, or everyone that has access to this file can see it. Okay, so it's uploaded. You can see it's there. Now I just need to go to my engagement file, because I still need to link it to somewhere. It's now just sitting on my cloud environment. I've navigated to my engagement file to payroll. I go down to the conduct section, and I now add the document there to the file by using the Caseware Cloud option. You will see the file is available there. The first one, I select it, I add it, and then you will see it's added at the bottom. But now it still needs to be assigned to a specific procedure. Now it's just on my file. So I go to the specific IDEA procedure that I performed, and I did an excessive overtime test here. I conclude whether there's an exception or not. I had exceptions, and I click the plus. So I add this document, and then you will see that's available at the bottom of the list, and I select it, click OK. Now you'll see the little arrow. It means I can see there's a document linked. When I click on it and I go to the link, it will open up my results in IDEA. Okay, so if you have IDEA, or if your clients have IDEA, the two can now integrate with one another. Okay, very cool feature, I think. Now things are not in different places anymore. Hi, welcome. Then coaching notes is another cool feature, obviously. So I'm going to check for missing sign-offs. So I cannot sign off as the reviewer if my preparer hasn't signed off. Okay, logically doesn't make sense. So I check for missing sign-offs. I see that procedures hasn't been signed off. Click on issue. That's the terminology for coaching notes in Caseware. I raise my coaching note to a specific person and I send it. When I send it, they will get a notification that I've raised the coaching note. They can address it, and when they're done, they can let me know, and I will get a notification back. Then lastly, we can also raise our findings in our engagement file directly. So once I'm done, I raise my findings. I can choose to include it in the final report. When I do that, it will add it automatically to the reporting template. And when I'm done and I've issued my report, this is my final findings, I can synchronize this to internal audit governance. Okay. In governance, we then have a central tracker, action tracker, where the team and or the audit manager or whoever that needs to do it in the team can centrally track for all of their engagements, all of their findings. Okay, when they do their quarterly reporting to the audit committee on the status of it, or monthly to Exco, saying to them what's still outstanding in their team or division or function. Right. So in a nutshell, Caseware Internal Audit is an affordable single platform solution that is aligned to the internal audit standards, connects governance up until execution, and actually for me it's up until reporting, and creates consistent risk assessments, has centralized action tracking in place, and drives or enforces accountability.
My name is Anneke
next
van
up we
Blyk,
have
and I'm project manager with Audit. We work with public sector entities to bring structure and accountability to the way that they prepare for their audits. So that audit is something that your organization runs, and that's not just something that happens to it. Before I show you the system, I would like to spend 2 minutes on a pattern that we. If it does not describe your environment, then I am definitely in the wrong room. I will say it plainly. Audit is an emotional time. Every year, at the same time, the CFO's office stops being a finance function and it becomes a search operation. Requests for information get sent faster than they can be logged. Nobody can say with certainty what has been asked for and what is still outstanding. Documents that exist somewhere in your organization cannot be produced within the available time. But this is not a technical failure, nor is it a shortage of competent people. It is an unstructured process, and it lands at the same office in the same way every single year. But those sleepless nights are not made during the audit season. They are made in the months before it. So let me take you through an infographic of what your year actually needs to look like. So you have your planning on my right-hand side. That is where you actually need to gather your information to be audit ready. So once the auditors land on your doorstep, you can give them information without them asking for it. Then we move forward to our execution phase, and this is where you start compiling your financial statements together with the information that needs to be submitted with it to the auditors. While the execution phase is going on, the AGSA lands on your doorstep and they start communicating. They want requests for information and they issue findings. So you need to manage all this within preparing for your financial statements and still having your monthly operations. And then finally, you've submitted your financials, you go into the finalization phase, you've now received findings, hopefully not a lot, and you need to make changes to your AFS, and then you submit your audited financial statements. But it doesn't stop there. If you are MFMA, you need to create your audit action plan, address your prior year findings, and submit it to the National Treasury website. If you're PFMA or TVET, you still need to keep track of your prior year findings and how you're going to address them. And through it out, you need to do your monthly operations as well. So what we've done is we've structured the system exactly the same. So we have planning, your AGSA communication, your audit submission, which are folders that will be shared with the auditors only, and your AFS compilation, which is your execution phase, your closeout, and handover. So today I'm going to start with the AGSA communication. And the reason for that is this is the heart of where your planning needs to come from. Okay, so this is the RFI register we have on the system. If you look at that top RFI, that is the first RFI that the auditors issue every single year. And it touches a bunch of different departments and different sections, which makes it very, very difficult to manage. If you look at this document, this looks familiar, I believe, to all of you. Now what we've done is we've seen, okay, it touches general, it touches human resources, your action plans, litigations, with tasks underneath that as well. So in our system, we break down those tasks into certain different departments and different sections. And the reason for that is so now you can go and assign the relevant people. They will get a notification in their Outlook with a link. They can come to this task and they can upload information. You can upload information from Excel, PDF, bulk upload it onto the system. There you can see you select, upload it. It's cloud-based, and once you press go, it uploads it to the system. You can now also go back and download all the information in bulk on this specific task if you want to save it on your SharePoint or whatever the case may be. Once you've uploaded your information, you check off on the checklist that you have completed everything, and you now need to go and change the status. Once you change the status, you'll see the different types of statuses over here, is I'm now going to say I want to submit my information to the Auditor General. Okay? Now the auditors receive a link in their Outlook and they can come to this task, review the information, and decide do they want to accept it or not. If you upload information, it creates a timestamp, so there's no longer going to be, yes, I submitted information, or no, I didn't, or it was 1 minute past 12 in the evening. You can also see on the RFI progress bar, the RFI progress bar in totality is only submitted 50%, but if you look at the line items below it, you'll see that it's been completed 100%, for example, audit and performance management. Now you can sit in steerco meetings and it can be productive because you can go in and see exactly what is still outstanding and who is responsible for it. The next slide is about requests for information, the categories, and the dashboards. So in our RFI register, we have something called an RFI category. This forms as part of the planning that needs to go into your planning file before the audit commences. So the RFI categories are non-sample driven, business processes, sample driven, and walkthroughs. Non-sample driven RFIs and business processes is something that you can predict. For example, you know the auditors are going to ask you for a fraud questionnaire to be completed every year. What you now can do is you can take that information, roll it into your planning folder for the next year, assign that to your team members before the audit starts, get audit ready, and when the auditors land at your doorstep, you can just hand them the information. If you look at the pie chart, you'll see that, obviously this is just for demo purposes, but this is a pie chart indicating that 85% of the information was non-sample driven or business processes. So technically, you can reduce your traffic of RFIs the next year by 85%. Okay. Next up, we are going from our planning folder and how we will be able to submit that to the auditors. So again, where do you see those predictable requests actually live? And it's in your planning folder all year. Inside your planning folder, you have a governance and support list. And for today, I'm going to take you to policies as an example. Let me take one item. You have your written delegations of power, because that is the document that you need to submit every single year. Okay, I'm going to assign it to Michael. Michael comes in, he uploads his documentation and then sets the status to submit for review. If you have a second reviewer in your entity, we can build that into your statuses. We can customize it in your environment the way that you would like. Now, I'm the second reviewer and I come in and I say include in audit file and change the status to audit ready. Once you do that, the system pulls it through to your audit file without taking any comments, any back and forth that you might have had with your team, and they take it through to the audit file and simply share the attachment and the task name with the auditors. If you've made a mistake, the system can retract it. So you can go back and change that status to, let's say, risk identified, and it will retract that document again. Okay. Now, if we go back to our AGSA communication folder, you'll see the second thing that we talk about is findings. So you have your RFI register and you have your finding register. So we have created a new feature called the COF extract. This is important because while you are actually busy uploading your findings for this year, the system captures the text to be produced into your audit action plan at the end of the audit. So now I'm going to show you, you are capturing, I think it's COMAF number 17. I click on the auto extract tool. I upload my finding, which we've received in Word. I can say which section it relates to, who's been assigned to it, the due date, which is normally 5 days, and then also at the end, if you know what the materiality of the finding is, you can also choose that. So in this case, it's material, or no, important matters, sorry. Now, once you've submitted it, you can go through to your finding register. You will see that COMAF number 17 has been captured on your finding register under important matters. And if you open up the task, you can see the text was extracted under your audit finding. You have your recommendations, you have your internal control deficiencies, etc. So that happens automatically. What now can happen is you copy this task into your audit action plan. Obviously, once your action plan has been concluded, the auditor's conclusion has been concluded, Then you move it into your important matters. I've now copied it in there, and you will be able now to see in the columns your audit finding, your recommendation, your internal control deficiency. So these columns mimic exactly what National Treasury is requesting. That means once you've busy compiling your findings for this current year, you are addressing your action plan. You can also export this, so there's no longer any copy and paste, and you can upload it to your National Treasury template, or you can just use it as an internal action plan if you're PFMA or TVET. Okay. Next up, within our AGSA communication, so we're still busy in that folder, we are going to look at our finding register and our change register. So back to our finding register, we've now collected COMAF number 17. Again, I'm going to assign it to Michael. Michael has to now produce his management response. And this finding also affects changes to your financial statements. So we have three categories. You can either choose from a disclosure that needs to be updated, an account that needs to be reclassified, or a journal that needs to be passed. If you select any of these items, it will pull through to your change register. That means you can keep track of each and every finding that was initiated or that is requesting changes to your financials. So here's a nice dashboard. You can see how many findings there are, how many are in progress, how many has been completed, as well as how many disclosures needs to be updated, how many accounts needs to be reclassified, and journals that needs to be passed. And if you go into the detail for disclosures that needs to be updated, you will be able to see this view. It's a short summary of your audit finding, and you can see what is the materiality. You can plan according to the materiality. So if there's 5 administrative matters and 1 important matter, you know obviously which ones you need to address first. And that is the change register. Right. Now we're finished with the AGSA communication folder. Now we're going back to our planning folder to see what we might have missed. So we have our contact form, and this is something that the auditors ask for every year. So you have to, or normally entities take Excel spreadsheets and you fill in a column to say, this is my name, this is my cell phone number. So what we've done is we've actually automated that into a form. You can copy the link, put it in an email, and the people that complete the form actually does not need to have access to the system. So in this case, I'm going to fill in my name. I'm going to select who I work for. You can actually share this with the AG as well, because then you have a centralized contact list of who works where, if you have consultants, whatever the case may be. So you'll see there I can select I'm a project manager, and I click submit. Right. So now it pulls straight through to your contact list. The second thing is training. So together with your subscription, we provide training to yourself, your entity, whoever needs to work on the system, but we also provide training to the auditors. So we assist you as part of your annual subscription through the hand-holding process, through the change management process, making sure you understand how the system works. If there's any difficulty, we are there to help you throughout the process. Okay. Next up, we're going then into our execution phase. So now you've started with compiling your financials, and you are also compiling the evidence that need to go into it. Right. Again, let us use property, plant, and equipment as an example. So you'll see if we open up our balance sheet assets, let's go to PPE, and something that you need to submit with your financials for PPE is your asset register. So your asset register, in this case, I've assigned it to Bussy. Bussy can come in, she can upload her information, the same trend, she can change the status, and I will get a notification to come and review the asset register. If I'm happy, so let's just see there, Bussy is changing the status to audit ready, or AFS ready, sorry. Now I can come in and I can say I want to include it in audit file, and I am happy with the review. I've changed it to audit ready, and again it pulls through to my second audit file that I'm going to share with the auditors. So while you're busy compiling your financials and your supporting evidence, you can track exactly who is responsible for what, by what due date they need to submit the information, and you can see on a live basis how far you are with compiling your supporting evidence. This is just a dashboard overview, which CFOs love. You can see there's a little pie chart, and also there's a portfolio view. So that's for your income statement. Then you have that for your balance sheet. You have that for your disclosures. And you can see exactly what has been submitted, how many tasks are still outstanding. And you can also schedule this report to land in your inbox as frequently as you would like. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the Caseware integration, which is new and we're quite excited about it. So the Caseware integration is a desktop app that you can download from the CwX website. And the desktop app is called the Audit Tracker desktop app. Okay. So you open the app, click on open and select the folder. You upload the folder where your Caseware working papers are saved on your machine. I select the folder and you can see the data starting to validate. So Audit Tracker is busy reading straight from Caseware. Then I click on submit to Audit Tracker. And it loads new lead sheets. It archives the old lead sheets that were pushed through previously, and it creates the new ones every time you press the validate button. Back into the desktop app, you will see that number climbing, and those are your lead sheets coming straight out of your Caseware working papers and uploading to Audit Tracker. So this means that nobody needs to physically go into Caseware, download all your lead sheets, submit them through to your audit file. It's being done automatically. In this case, I'm going to take deferred income as an example. So this is now what's coming from Caseware working papers. There's your Excel, it's attached. Right, and again, same trend. I want to click in include in audit file. I want to change the status, and it's going to go to your supporting evidence that you need to provide to the auditors. Yeah, so that is what the app then also does is it pulls through your TB. So every time you validate and change the information, there will be a new TB uploaded that you can also share with the auditors. And then the final thing, which I think is very, very awesome, is the fact that it keeps a change log. So the change log, if you've passed a journal on PPE on your financial statements, it will keep track of that changes and you will be alerted so that you need to go back and change your asset register before you submit it to the auditors. So here you'll see this is what your change log looks like. And there you have PPE, it's changed. Cash and cash equivalents, it's changed. Operating expenses has changed. And your investment at fair value was added. So that's the Caseware integration. Right. Now you've submitted all your evidence. The auditors have received your financial statements and all your evidence. And now you are moving into the end of the audit and the closeout. So this is where you upload your final consolidated worksheets, your statement of changes in equity, and your audit journals. Here is the change register we spoke about earlier, And this is where you submit your audit financial statements together with your trial balance, which you can push straight through from your Caseware integration. So that is where your final detail is saved for the auditors to view on a very nice mind map. They won't be able to miss the information. The next thing is the finalization and handover. This is where you upload your management report, your audit report, the subsidiaries if it's applicable. You can add your Caseware backups, your ERP versus Caseware reconciliation, your XBRL reports, and then finally, 2 things, your closeout report, and we also ask for a client feedback at the end of the audit cycle. But what we also do is we provide you with a closeout report where your project manager that's been assigned to you throughout the year assesses your data on a weekly basis. And once we've gathered that data, we can submit a report to you at the end of the year to say, this is a risk. This section might be an issue. How far are you with fixing your findings? What is the workload looking like within your entity? Is there someone that does all the work? Because this will actually show them just how bad or how good your work has been evenly spread. And then let's go to our final dashboards and permissions. Right. Here you can see every person and every task that has been assigned to them. So in this case, looking at myself, I have completed 40% of my workload. I can see what I have not started. I can open it up and I can see exactly what is still outstanding. So every dashboard is interclickable. It's very easy to see what's up, why are your people behind with what's been requested. Once I click on the notification, it goes again to my Outlook with a link and it takes me back straight to these specific tasks. You can also filter this dashboard according to your team. So you can filter it according to the AG team, if you have the Adapt IT team. And in this case, I can see Michael is the one with the biggest workload. I also want to speak about security. So because you can lock the system down as tightly as it needs to be. So if you have human resources information, for example, you can set the permissions so that on a task level, on a list level, folder level, or workspace level, that you can prohibit someone from accessing. So there you'll see that's the security and permissions. I'm switching everybody off. I'm making it a private task. Or I can set view only rights. And that little lock that will be coming up on the screen now that's indicating it's a private task and it's only being shared with the people that you've assigned it to. So that brings me to the end of my demo. And I only have one thing to ask you, and who will be signing up? Right.
My name is Mohammed. As you can see, from 2024, we've been giving you, through Caseware, the best AI solutions that's available on the market at that point in time. So our solutions have evolved from chatbot-based solutions with IDA in 2024, and then I want to say AI solutions in Extractly and Validate, and now we're moving to embedded AI solutions. So as the technology changes, we change the platform accordingly to bring you the best benefits. And I think the highlight on this slide that you should take away is that this technology is changing rapidly. The pace of change is enormous, and I think we keep you up to date with that change. I think another important aspect before we get into all the products is when implementing AI, you have to be risk averse. So from a risk mitigating point of view, I think you can rely on Caseware Cloud to always bring you the most secure platform. So we have a SOC 2 Type 2 certification, which essentially means that we get externally audited every year on our data security. We've got the ISO IEC certifications, which essentially means that everything we developed is developed in a way where data is treated as a first-class security feature. So it essentially sets out the rules in the way we develop to make sure that your data is protected. And I think it's important from a risk point of view when you're looking at AI is that you always protect yourself from a papaya perspective. And I want to give a very simple example here. The reason that we were so quick to make sure that you got IDA for free in 2024 was it became apparent to us that it was clerks that were in audit firms that were needed to do things quickly, were taking an Excel file, could be a payroll file or anything with sensitive information, and uploading it to a free version of ChatGPT, a free version of Gemini, and immediately your firm was in breach of Papaya, and you were required to report that to the information regulator. So we kept y'all's data safe, and we gave you an alternative to use. And I think the other important risk mitigating factor is, as an accounting firm or audit firm, you don't want to go become, go down the Figma route. I think what became apparent when Figma partnered with Claude was that you got a good integrated solution. However, within a few months, Claude came out with Claude Design, essentially taking the Figma IP that's been built up over 10 years and within 6 months, creating a brand new product for themselves. So we want to protect your IP in this new modern age. So those are risk mitigating factors that you really should have at the forefront when looking at any AI solution. So what I want to also explain to you guys is that AI has the potential to unlock efficiencies. And whenever we look at a solution with AI, we want to 10x quality and we want to 10x productivity. And Verity is obviously the first step in that direction. And the real reason is that it's an embedded AI solution. So you've already got your data in one place and your historical data as well. You've already got your users in one place. And the only thing that we're doing is we're adding the AI layer. And at that, we're giving you one of the most capable AI models on the market at the moment in terms of Opus. So I think for you to when you adopt AI, it's really the big gains that you need to target. And the big gains come when you're in an embedded AI platform. Just to quickly run you through a classical AI assistant solution versus embedded AI solution, which is Verity, what you'll notice is that the initial setup between the two are miles apart. Where it's a matter of just turning an embedded analytic solution on like Verity and just saying who must get it, in the other world you have to actually create connectors to the data that you're going to need. That data could be trial balance data. That data could be board minutes. That data could be subledger information. And in that movie, you have to maintain all those connectors. You obviously get that out the box when you're using the Caseware Cloud Platform with our Zero, Sage integrations, etc. So any information that's it's available in ERP that we connect to technically can be brought into your Caseware AI environment and be available to Verity. So that's a major selling point. The setup is phenomenally different and much easier with an embedded AI solution. The other thing to note is that there's a lot of learnings when it comes to implementing AI the first time. Like how much of context can I use, or what is context, for example? How full does it get? When it starts getting full, as an example, over 75%, it's more likely to hallucinate. So we understand that you all just want to do your audit and accounting work, and we build all of those checks to make sure the AI gives you the best answer possible in the harness that we tied around Verity. So a couple of things that we've did in the harness is when you ask it a question, we've mapped out all the data and basically given it an index to all the data in the cloud file. What that means is, and what it means when you compare it to a classical AI solution, is that instead of it with a classical AI solution, you having to upload all the context, so board minutes, trial balance, etc., etc., it automatically has an index of all the information that it has available, and based on the question you ask, it just retrieves what it needs to give you the right answer. And how this helps is that in a classical AI solution, this could easily bloat your context window and lead to hallucination. Whereas on our side, your context is much more minimal and you are ultimately likely to get a better answer. We've also catered for scenarios where if the context starts getting too full, we automatically make sure that we move it to a cleaner context and that type of thing. So those are the types of learnings that you get when you really start playing around in the system. And we don't want you all to necessarily to become AI experts. We just want you all to get the productivity and quality gains that comes with using AI. Okay, so I think that from an overview perspective on the Caseware AI platform, I just wanted to take you into our confidence to tell you what we're seeing and just give you a bit of insight into how we built these solutions and why we did certain things. Now, the rest of the demo is actually going to go into the specific products. So it's going to be Extractly, Validate, and then we're gonna go through IDA and Verity agents, so that you'll get a better and clearer understanding of where we are and where we're heading. So first up, we've got Extractly. So Extractly is predominantly used in the audit space. Ideally, if you following the Caseware ecosystem, you'd be using Caseware IDEA to create a sample. You'd then either be using queries or client inquiries to request the information for that sample from your clients. Once that information is with you, obviously these two products make it easy to create a sample, gives you the audit trail and help you schedule when you can do what. But once you've got the data, Extractly is the product which takes all those PDFs that the client sent you and automatically puts it into Excel tables and does the recasting, make sure the dates are correct, that it falls within the year, ensures that the VAT number is correct, etc., etc. But let me, so with that, I'm going to give you a quick vid of Extractly.
Key audit evidence lives in scanned documents with no structure. PDFs are made for reading, not reconciling. Vouching is usually done by junior staff, but it's hard to delegate well. It takes oversight, slows down seniors, and potentially risks audit quality and consistency. Introducing Caseware Extractly, a built-in Excel solution for smarter audit testing and faster verification with cloud storage, so your first years can work like your third years. It's simple to get started. Download Extractly and launch it from the ribbon, right inside your substantive testing working papers in Excel. Upload your source documents, like invoices and bank statements in bulk. Extractly keeps everything organized and easily accessible. Matching is easy. Extractly automatically extracts fields like invoice numbers, dates and amounts from the source documents, to testing details in Excel in the sequence of your choice, eliminating any manual rekeying while reconciling. Click any extracted value in Excel to instantly highlight its source in the document, saving hours of toggling and searching across hundreds of files during audit testing. With Extractly, your source documents are processed and stored in the cloud, so your Excel files stay light, your testing stays fast, and your data stays secure. Extractly makes it easy to flag discrepancies by marking any mismatches as exceptions directly within the PDF. Adding and tracking comments helps reviewers quickly identify where testing results diverge. Highlight totals in a PDF and verify calculations instantly. No calculator needed. Extractly doesn't only extract text and numbers, but also structured tables, instantly detecting and converting them into clean, audit-ready formats, especially useful for documents with messy layouts, like bank statements. Vouching documents with the same layout? Save time with automated extraction templates. Set key fields once, save the template, and reuse it across documents like invoices and payslips. With Extractly, your first years work like third years, Smarter testing, faster reviews, and audit quality you can trust.
Excellent. So Extractly really solves a fundamental problem, and it does it quite well. Once we obviously brought Extractly to the market, another solution which is really powered by AI is Caseware Validate. So Caseware Validate is the tool that's used when a person needs to review a set of financial statements. So it does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of, for example, making sure that all the prior year figures that are in your current year financial statements ties up with the signed off prior year financials. Other things that it does is redoes all the casting. It makes sure that the notes ties up to what it says on the statements. So that entire review process becomes a lot easier when AI does some of that heavy lifting for you. So with that, I'm going to give you a video of Validate.
Financial statements are becoming more complex and time-consuming to review. Manual checks slow teams down and increase the risk of errors. Valuable time is wasted recalculating and rechecking statements when they should be focused on narrative and analysis. Introducing Caseware Validate, an AI-powered financial statement review solution that automates accuracy checks as you work from draft to final version. Getting started is easy. Upload or drag and drop your financial statements into Validate. No setup, no templates. Validate's AI automatically recognizes prior year versions and subsequent versions. Validate's AI capabilities runs thousands of pre-built checks. Mathematical accuracy, internal and prior period consistency, version comparison, multi-entity, and spell check. Cast and cross-check figures and references between statements and notes to catch mismatches. Validate summary of findings flags figures and narrative inconsistencies using smart color-coded indicators to prioritize critical issues first. Built-in filtering tools ensure nothing gets missed, so you can focus your review where it matters most. Because Validate runs in the cloud, there is no Excel lag and no performance slowdowns, even with large reports. Validate tracks changes across multiple versions while carrying forward prior reviews and references. When you're ready, Validate makes life easier with smart PDF exports, providing clear markups, summarized findings, and quick links to identified errors and queries. Say goodbye to slow, error-prone financial reviews. Validate automates accuracy checks, eliminates reporting risk, and frees your team to focus on high-value work. Discover the future of financial statement reviews. Schedule a demo today.
Excellent. So now you've got an understanding of what Validate does and what Extractly does. But I think where it becomes confusing is on the IDA Verity side. So IDA historically has been our chatbot, and Verity now is also a chatbot that's going to evolve into agents. The best way to illustrate the difference is for us to ask IDA and Verity the same question, and let's see the different responses that we get. So on your left, you should see IDA, and this is the answer that you've been getting all this while. The question being, what are the key risks I should be focused on right now? And it gives you a small spiel on for a manufacturing client, XYZ, which is the correct answer, but it's actually really general. And the auditor then has to do a lot of the heavy work. But with Verity, if you ask it the same question, it knows that you're a manufacturing entity, and it goes and gets the relevant information and incorporates it into the answer. So that step which IDA was missing is the step that Verity fulfills. It'll go to your trial balance, understand how much you got for sales, see if there's a variance. It'll go to the board minutes. It'll go to anywhere in your engagement where it thinks it's going to get the right answer and pull out that information and add it to as context to the answer. So all of a sudden, you have to do a lot less work. So this is the key difference, I think, that you need to understand when it comes to IDA and Verity. It's just that the answers are grounded from facts that's sitting in the data in your file. And this is a massive time saving. But what this means is that, so the difference actually is technically is that we've created Verity with a harness and given it tools that lets it read information from across the file. And with that, I think we want to start taking the next steps in terms of Verity agents. So where Verity is available today and it only can read, what we also are busy doing is we're giving Verity write tools. So when we say write tools, what it means is it can start doing things on your behalf. So over and above just reading the information from the financial statements, it can then go and start filling in information on checklists or drafting, giving you alternate paragraphs for certain notes, etc., and then also going and putting them in. And so basically, over and above just giving it the ability to read, we're also giving it the ability to write anywhere in your engagement. So that's the key differences between IDA, Verity, and Verity agents. So IDA is here today, and we're not sure if it'll be along or how much longer it'll be around, or whether we will keep it forever. We've got Verity available today. Obviously, Verity has to come at a cost because it's a much more integrated solution. And then we've got Verity agents. This is what we're building, and I'm gonna demo for you next. So I'm gonna do a quick demo now on a disclosure checklist agent. So on screen, you should see a checklist which needs to be answered. It's your disclosure checklist. So normally what happens is you open it up and you start scrolling through it. And then you see, okay, this is going to be a long day. And then you start looking at the financial statements, which you need to use to answer the disclosure checklist. And you see it's about 20 odd pages. And instead of budgeting where you originally thought it might take you 4 hours to do this, you're thinking more like 8 hours now. And you really get that feeling in the bottom of your stomach that this is going to be a long day. But in this process, we've given you the ability to use a disclosure checklist agent. So all you need to do is upload your financial statements in PDF format. It knows the questions that needs to be answered. There's about 500 of them. And what it does is it goes to each one. It suggests yes, NA, or no. And it gives you the reason why. And it hyperlinks you to the place in the engagement where it's getting the answer from. So something that used to take a lot of time, all of a sudden becomes just a review process. And this is the power of agents in terms of increasing quality and increasing productivity. Because here you've got answers which you have an audit trail of, you've got a human in the loop, and you've got access to the best models with the best harness out there. So I think that was the first breakthrough that we've brought to you through Verity agents, or we're bringing to you through Verity agents. The next agent that I want to show you is a risk assessment agent. So how the risk assessment agent is, it has access to all the data in your file. You can obviously give it additional data that you'd think would be relevant when it comes to suggesting risks. And you go through that process first, and then you click on Start Analysis. And it takes all the information within the file and starts suggesting risks that aren't there already. And it gives you a few, and with any good AI solution, it gives you the reasons as to why it is suggesting these as risks, and you as the reviewer just have to go and start reviewing and seeing and applying your professional judgment. So it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, and puts you in a position where you just have to apply your professional judgment and start accepting, editing, or rejecting risks. And these are time-saving quality enhancements, and I can't state this enough. We really want AI to take you 10x in terms of quality, 10x in terms of productivity. We've seen what it can do in the development space. And I think we want to bring that 10x type of improvement to the audit and accounting space. And it's very evident that it is possible with Verity in the Caseware Cloud platform. So I think there's a lot more agents coming up. Our timeline is from 2027. We will start rolling out these agents that are going to fix specific areas, and then ultimately, as we move into 2028, hopefully we'll be in a position where users can start creating their own agents. But I hope you've got a better understanding of AI, a better understanding of how we've been thinking when applying AI to the solutions we have. And I really hope that you'll get a lot of benefits and get to try out Verity soon and see all the productivity gains.